Chapter 6, here is some vocabulary that we're going to use throughout the chapter. Some of these words you've seen before, which is kind of nice. It makes it a little bit easier. And it shows it here. So I have highlighted the name of the line, and then I have it highlighted here. So a perpendicular bisector, a perpendicular line intersects a line at 90 degrees, so it makes that like 90-degree angle. So this line is perpendicular, it makes a 90-degree angle. And then bisector means it cuts the line exactly in half, cuts in half. When you bisect something, it's cutting it exactly in half. So like this is the midpoint. And then for this line, using another color, so this line right here gets cut exactly in half, and this side of the segment is the same length as this side. And then an angle bisector, an angle, as you know, is like this. Here's an angle. And bisector means cuts in half again, like exactly in half, but it's cutting the angle in half. So an angle bisector cuts the angle into two equal parts like this. And so that's what we see in this picture here. This line right here cuts this angle into two equal parts. So this side of the angle is the same length, or same like measure, degree measure as this side. So like, let's say this is 20 degrees, then this would also be 20 degrees over here. Okay, and then the next word is median. A median is a segment that breaks this segment up into two equal parts. It hits at the midpoint. So this right here is the midpoint of that segment. It's the midpoint of this segment right here. So this here is the same length as this because this is the midpoint of that line. And then an altitude is something you've seen a lot because we use it in area of a triangle equations. The altitude is the perpendicular height. Perpendicular height. In this case of a triangle, but it could be of like a parallelogram or something like that. So altitude right here, perpendicular height, it makes a 90-degree angle. Notice that the altitude doesn't split this into two equal pieces. And then the last word is mid-segment. This mid-segment, it hits right here at the midpoint of both of these lines. And then this is the same length as this, and then this segment is the same length as this. So this is at the midpoint of that line. And this is at the midpoint of that line. Okay, so that's vocabulary. There's also an assignment on Alex like this, where you're just like naming segments. So I added that to our list of like start here with Alex, classifying segments inside a triangle. So that would be a good one to do today after the homework. Okay, then down here, starting specifically lesson 6-1, we're going to be working with perpendicular and angle bisectors. So perpendicular bisector is a segment that bisects the other segment and it hits at 90 degrees, and then angle bisector bisects the angle, and both sides of the angle are the same measure. So here's the theorems involved. Perpendicular bisector theorem. Perpendicular bisector theorem. It says if CP is a perpendicular bisector of AB, so if CBP is a perpendicular bisector of AB, so with this being a perpendicular bisector, it hits perpendicular, and we already know that these two lines are the same length, but it's also saying that you can say that CA is equal to CB. So you can say that this line is the same length as this over here. So when you have a perpendicular bisector, you can also say that AC is equal to CB. And then the converse of that, if DA, this line right here, DA right here, is the same length as DB, then you can say that this is the perpendicular bisector. So perpendicular and it bisects this line. So the vocabulary is kind of a lot, but the concepts are pretty much like things are equal. So it makes it pretty easy. I guess if I wanted to color code this part is the blue, and then this part is the yellow. Okay, and then we're going to go over angle bisector theorem. So for this one, if AD bisects BAC, if AD bisects BAC, so if this here bisects the angle, that means that this side of the angle will be the same length as this. And I guess I'll pull another color. And DB is perpendicular to AB, so this is 90-degree angle. And then DC is perpendicular like this. Then you can say that DB is equal to DC. So then we can say that DB right here is the same length as this. We'll use 2 lines. So this would be the same length as this. And then the converse of that is if you have these like 90-degree angles. So if these segments are perpendicular and you're told that DB is equal to DC, so and you're told that this is equal to this, then you can say that AD is the angle bisector right here. And that would mean like this side of the angle, same length as this. Then you'd say that this angle is the same length as this over here. Or not length, measure. Okay, so now we're gonna transition over to like some practice problems. Pause this right here. We're gonna go over to 6-1. Pause the recording.